Hey NFL fans, before we dive into today's hottest stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update from NFL News Now. The Philadelphia Eagles are back in the headlines, and this time, it's not just about another highlight reel catch or a dramatic fourth-quarter drive. No, this is about comebacks, about players clawing their way back into the spotlight, about second chances, and about the heartbeat of a team that refuses to fade. When the NFL's official transaction wire lit up this week, one name caught every Eagle fan's attention: wide receiver Darius Cooper. The team has officially designated him to return from injured reserve, and while that may seem like just another roster move to some, to those who follow the Birds closely, it's a signal of something deeper. It's the next chapter of a young man trying to prove he belongs in this league, and a veteran core trying to hold the line as Philadelphia battles its way through another bruising season. Let's start with Cooper. He's only 23, but his journey already feels like something out of a football documentary. Coming out of Tarleton State, a small program, far from the bright lights and massive stadiums of the SEC or Big Ten, Cooper was one of those underdog stories that make fans root just a little harder. He wasn't drafted. He didn't have the luxury of hearing his name called on that big stage in April. Instead, he got the call from Philly right after the 2025 NFL Draft wrapped up. The Eagles brought him in as an undrafted free agent, and from day one, he knew he'd have to fight for every rep, every route, every snap. That's the grind. That's the story of every undrafted player. You're not promised anything. You earn it, or you're gone. In those early training camp practices, reporters talked about his burst, about how he moved with that smooth, deceptive speed that made defensive backs misjudge angles. The kid could separate, and he had hands like glue. But football has a cruel sense of timing. In September, just when it looked like Cooper was finding his rhythm, he went down with a shoulder injury. The pain wasn't just physical. It was the frustration of watching your dream stall outright as it was taking off. The team placed him on injured reserve, effectively hitting pause on his rookie season. For most rookies, that could have been the end of the story. But not for Cooper. This week, the Eagles opened that 21-day practice window. He's back on the field, back running routes, back trying to carve out his spot on the 53-man roster. If he can't make it back in that window, he goes right back to IR, and his season's done. So every practice now is an audition. Every rep is a chance to remind the coaches and the fans why they believed in him in the first place. And as Cooper is trying to restart his story, another Eagle is trying to extend his own just a little bit longer. Brandon Graham. Yes, that Brandon Graham is back. The heart and soul of the Eagles' defense. The man who strip-sacked Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. The voice that echoes through every practice and every huddle. The guy every rookie looks up to. For months, everyone thought his story had the perfect ending. He'd ridden off into the sunset, another Lombardi trophy in hand. The city of Philadelphia celebrating him as one of its greatest ever. But the game has a funny way of whispering to you, doesn't it? It tells you there's still one more snap, one more play, one more chance to feel that adrenaline again. For Brandon Graham, that whisper turned into a call he couldn't ignore. So there he was, back at the NovaCare complex, lacing up, throwing on that familiar number 55 jersey, stepping out onto the practice field like he never left. And when he spoke to reporters afterward, there was no sugarcoating it. "I know I'm going to be sore tomorrow," he said with a grin, "but it's that good sore." You could feel the authenticity in those words. This wasn't a guy chasing fame or money. It wasn't even about proving anything anymore. Graham signed a one-year deal worth around $2.44 million, but that's not what brought him back. It was the pull of the locker room, the bond with his teammates, the roar of the Link on a cold Sunday afternoon. That's what got him. The Eagles needed him, too. Let's be honest, their defense has been struggling. Only 11 sacks on the season so far, and the sudden retirement of Zadarius Smith left a massive hole in that front line. They were missing that spark, that veteran presence that can steady a team when things get shaky. Graham's not 25 anymore. He's 37, and he knows he won't be playing every down. But sometimes leadership doesn't come from a stat sheet. It comes from voice, presence, the guy who sets the tone. Jordan Mailata said it best after that first practice back. All you heard was BG yelling, "Yeah, I can hear you breathing heavy already." The trash talk was back. The energy was back. And with it, the hope that maybe this defense can rediscover its swagger. Coach Nick Sirianni kept things measured, saying, "We'll see where he is by the end of the week and see what we got." But you could tell, deep down, Sirianni knows what Graham brings. He's not just another body, he's a culture builder. And when your defense is on its heels, sometimes that's exactly what you need. Graham himself admitted he's pacing things. "I ain't in no rush," he said. That's wisdom. That's experience talking. He's not trying to be the hero. He's trying to be the glue. And here's where the stories of Cooper and Graham intersect in a beautiful way. You've got the 23-year-old trying to climb the mountain for the first time, and the 37-year-old who's seen every peak and valley the game has to offer. One is fighting for a future. The other is cherishing the present. But both of them are driven by the same fire, the desire to contribute, to matter, to wear that midnight green with pride and purpose. That's the DNA of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's blue-collar. It's gritty. It's about showing up when the world thinks you're done. Graham even admitted he took inspiration from Tom Brady's retirement. "I just feel like I still got a duty to come in and help, since I feel like I still got a little juice left," he said. You can't help but smile at that. He's not chasing stats or headlines. He's chasing contribution. He's chasing the feeling of being in that locker room when the team's locked in, eyes on the next opponent, believing they can still make another championship run. And make no mistake, that's exactly what this Eagles team is still fighting for. In Graham's words, they've got the opportunity of a lifetime. Now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. The Eagles are in one of those seasons that test a team's identity. Injuries have piled up, roles have shifted, and consistency has been hard to find. But when you see players like Darius Cooper coming back from injury and Brandon Graham returning to the grind at nearly 40 years old, you realize that what defines this team isn't the box score. It's resilience. It's the culture of never backing down, no matter how tough the season gets. It's the same mentality that's carried this franchise through decades of ups and downs. The same grit that turned an underdog team into a Super Bowl champion once before. And maybe, just maybe, this is the spark that turns their season around. Cooper's return gives the offense a new dimension. He's young, hungry, explosive, the kind of player who can stretch defenses and open up space for guys like A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Meanwhile, Graham's presence could reignite a pass rush that's been missing that edge, that confidence, that raw, emotional spark that Philly fans feed off of. The combination of youth and experience, of hunger and heart. That's what could make the difference in the weeks ahead. In the end, what's happening in Philadelphia right now is bigger than a roster transaction or a veteran's comeback story. It's a reminder of what makes football so powerful. It's about endurance, about faith in yourself, about trusting the process when everything seems stacked against you. Darius Cooper's fight to reclaim his spot and Brandon Graham's decision to lace them up one more time both tell us the same thing. The game doesn't care how old you are, where you came from, or how many times you've been knocked down. It only cares if you're willing to get back up. And if there's one thing the Eagles have always done, it's get back up. From undrafted rookies to Super Bowl heroes, from fresh starts to final rides. This team keeps finding ways to write new chapters. So as Cooper sprints routes again and Graham shakes off the soreness, one thing is certain. The Philadelphia Eagles are still fighting, still believing, and still chasing that ultimate prize. Because in Philly, the story never really ends. It just finds a new way to begin again. Keep watching as we analyze more details about some rumors. All right, folks, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you sounds absolutely insane, like straight out of a football fan's fever dream. The kind of thing you read on some sketchy rumor page and say, no way that's real. But the whispers are growing louder, the sources are starting to hum in unison, and the shockwaves this could send through the NFL? Massive, monumental, historic. Because apparently, and I'm saying this with all the disbelief in the world, the Dallas Cowboys might have just pulled off one of the most jaw-dropping heists in recent football memory. The word going around? They've stolen A.J. Brown from the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, you heard me right. The Cowboys. A.J. Brown. Gone from Philly. And before you start yelling at your screen, before you call me crazy, before you spam the comments with "there's no way," just hear me out. Because from the bits and pieces floating out there, the rumors, the cryptic tweets, the whispers coming out of both camps, it's starting to look like something serious might actually be cooking behind the scenes. It's one of those moments that make you question reality in the NFL. A.J. Brown, arguably one of the top 5 receivers in the entire league. The guy who's been the heart and soul of Philly's offense, the emotional engine of that locker room, suddenly packing his bags and heading to Dallas? That's not just a move. That's a declaration of war. Now, let's rewind for a second, because to understand how insane this would be, you need to know the context. The Cowboys and Eagles rivalry isn't just football. It's blood, it's history, it's pure hatred dressed in green and silver versus blue and white. These fan bases can't stand each other. They live to see the other one suffer. So, for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys to reach right into the heart of Philadelphia and rip out their superstar receiver, their pride, their swagger, their weapon, and bring him to Arlington? Man, that's not just a roster move. That's a robbery with the sirens still blaring in the background. The rumor first popped up on social media late last night. A cryptic tweet from someone close to the Cowboys organization hinted that a blockbuster move involving an NFC East superstar was about to go down. At first, everyone assumed it had to be something minor, maybe a defensive player, maybe a draft pick swap. But then a few eagle-eyed fans noticed that A.J. Brown suddenly scrubbed some Eagles-related posts off his Instagram. He unfollowed a few team accounts. And then silence. No statement. No denial. Just radio silence from one of the most outspoken players in the league. You know how that goes in the modern NFL? Silence speaks volumes. And here's where things get wild. Reports say that behind closed doors, tensions had been brewing between A.J. Brown and the Eagles' coaching staff for weeks. Apparently, Brown wasn't happy with how he was being used in the offense lately. Fewer deep shots, less involvement in key moments, and, according to some insiders, frustration over Jalen Hurts not targeting him as much as expected. Some say Brown felt the offense had shifted too much toward the run game, too much toward short yardage situations, and not enough toward showcasing his explosive playmaking. You could see flashes of that frustration on the sidelines in recent games. Those heated exchanges, the headshakes, the quiet moments on the bench when the camera panned to him looking, well, let's just say not thrilled. So if this was bubbling under the surface, maybe it shouldn't be as shocking as it feels. Maybe the Cowboys saw an opportunity, a tiny crack in the wall, and decided to blast right through it. Because let's face it, if there's one thing Jerry Jones loves, it's making a splash. The man lives for chaos, for headlines, for that feeling of being the center of the football universe. And what better way to make the entire sports world stop in its tracks than by taking the Eagles' best offensive weapon and giving him a star on his helmet? Imagine the press conference, man. Imagine Jerry Jones sitting there with that little smirk, microphone in hand, saying something like, "We saw an opportunity to make our team better, and we took it." And right next to him, A.J. Brown sitting in a navy blue suit, flashing that trademark grin, saying, "It's time for a new chapter." The world would explode. Philly would burn their jerseys. Cowboys fans would throw a parade before the season even starts. But here's where the emotional earthquake really hits. What does this mean for Jalen Hurts? Because if this rumor turns out to be true, Hurts just lost his best friend, his favorite target, his security blanket. The chemistry between those two was unreal. They came up together, built that offense around trust and connection. Without Brown, that entire passing game collapses in on itself. Devonta Smith is incredible, no doubt, but without Brown drawing double coverage and scaring defenses, teams can start playing Philly a whole lot differently. Hurts would be left scrambling for answers, staring down at a receiver core that suddenly feels incomplete. The Eagles, who were once the NFC's juggernaut, would suddenly look mortal, vulnerable. And that's exactly what Dallas wants. That's exactly what the Cowboys thrive on, watching their biggest rival stumble while they rise. Because if you plug A.J. Brown into that Dallas offense, oh boy, CeeDee Lamb on one side, A.J. Brown on the other, and Dak Prescott finally having the kind of elite receiving duo that could terrorize defenses week in and week out. Add in Tony Pollard's explosiveness and that defense led by Micah Parsons, and you're talking about a team that could suddenly look like a Super Bowl favorite overnight. Now, whether this rumor turns out to be 100% legit or just off-season smoke and mirrors, the idea alone has already lit up the NFL community like wildfire. Twitter's melting down. Reddit threads are on fire. Talk shows are already dedicating entire segments to what-if scenarios. Philly fans are demanding answers. Cowboys fans are flooding timelines with memes about the robbery of the decade. It's chaos. And honestly, that's what makes football so great. It's not just about the games. It's about the stories, the drama, the unexpected twists that keep us glued to our screens. But let's not forget, every rumor starts somewhere. Sometimes it's nothing, a whisper blown out of proportion. Other times, it's the first spark before the explosion. And with the trade deadline approaching, the NFL's about to enter that wild, unpredictable zone where reality starts to blur with possibility. Could the Cowboys actually have pulled this off? Could A.J. Brown really walk into AT&T Stadium wearing a star on his helmet and line up against the very team that used to chant his name? The idea is crazy, but in this league, crazy happens every season. What makes this rumor even juicier is how quiet both teams have been. No denials from the Eagles' front office. No, we're committed to AJ's speeches. And on the Cowboys' side, just that smug silence that always makes you wonder if they're hiding something big. The last time Jerry Jones played things this close to the vest, it was before the Amari Cooper trade. And we all remember how that shook things up. And let's be honest, this isn't just about football. This is about pride, about identity, about legacy. For Philly fans, losing A.J. Brown to the Cowboys wouldn't just hurt. It would scar. He's been more than a player. He's been a symbol of this new, fearless Eagles era. For Cowboys fans, though, this would be the ultimate revenge arc. After years of being mocked for playoff failures, of being called overrated, suddenly they'd have the ultimate trump card. Picture it. Eagles versus Cowboys on a Sunday night. The lights bright, the cameras rolling, and A.J. Brown standing across from his old teammates. The boos raining down from the stands. The tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. And on the very first drive, Dak Prescott drops back, launches a deep ball, and Brown, wearing that gleaming silver star, hauls it in for a touchdown. Silence in Philly. Pandemonium in Dallas. You couldn't script it better if you tried. So yeah, call it a rumor, call it madness, call it whatever you want. But this one's got everyone talking. Maybe it's smoke, maybe it's fire. But one thing's for sure. The NFL is buzzing. The fans are losing their minds. And somewhere, Jerry Jones is probably smiling. Because whether or not this deal is real, the Cowboys have already won something priceless, the spotlight. And in the NFL, that might be the most valuable thing of all. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and share it with your fellow NFL fans. Stay tuned for more updates, only here on NFL News Now.